And one last little Bonnie and Clyde Greenpoint-style story from the same address involving brothers Frank and Charles Friesel, their friend Joseph Bonusa, and his wife Elizabeth Bonusa, the girl living at 181 Greenpoint Avenue. Saturday, July 9, 1921, the Brooklyn Citizen. Frank Friesel arraigned on charge of taking $1,365 from safe. Frank Friesel, 18 years old, a machinist of number 238 Huron Street, was arraigned today in the Bridge Plaza Court on charges of grand larceny and attempted burglary. Recently, it was said, he returned from a joyride with some friends in which they toured Connecticut and Massachusetts. According to the police, Friesel was the backer of the party, financing it with stolen money and supplying the automobile, which he is charged with having stolen. The young man was employed in a garage at number 124 Clay Street, and his employer, William Pringle, said he is an expert machinist. On March 5, according to the charges, Friesel broke into a safe in Mr. Pringle's office and stole $1,365. On April 26, an automobile owned by Maury Tapper of number 1272 East 13th Street was stolen off Milton Street and Manhattan Avenue. The car later was found in a garage in Greenpoint. 2 weeks after the robbery of the safe, no clue to the theft had developed. Friesel had been helping Pringle and Detective Frederick Wendenberg in trying to solve the mystery. Then, according to the detective, Friesel suddenly disappeared. He was arrested on his return to Brooklyn. Before Magistrate Short in Bridge Plaza Court, Friesel waived examination on the charge of burglary and was held without bail for the grand jury. On the automobile theft charge, he was held without bail for examination Monday. Monday, August 15, 1921, the Brooklyn Daily Eagle. Suspended sentence was given to Frank Friesel, 17, of 238 Huron Street, who on March 5 stole $1,365 from William A. Pringle at 3124 Clay Street, his employer. Pringle went to a telephone and Friesel stole the payroll. Friesel obtained mercy on account of his previous good record, his youth, and the fact that he has made partial restitution and intends to pay the balance. Then, 3 months later, Frank is busted stealing jewelry in his stomach. Friday, October 14, 1921, the Times-Union. Boy swallows $800 ring when retired policeman seizes two for robbery. 2 boys hurled a brick through the window of John Fabser's jewelry store at 93 Manhattan Avenue late yesterday afternoon. One of them grabbed an $800 ring, and both were arrested after a chase of several blocks. One of them said he had swallowed the ring. The prisoners gave their names as George Meyer, 17, of 184 Oakland Avenue, and Frank Friesel, 17, of 238 Huron Street. Friesel said he had swallowed the diamond while running full tilt. John W. Sepinobitz, a retired policeman of 490 Long Island City, saw the robbery. He was in an automobile and made the arrest when Newtown Creek blocked the path of the fugitives. At Greenpoint Avenue Station, the boys said they were out of work and stole to get money for a meal and lodging. Saturday, October 15, 1921, the Daily News. Accused as burglar, he and X-rays disagree on ring. An X-ray photograph failed yesterday at the Greenpoint Hospital, Brooklyn, to reveal a ring inside of Frank Friesel, 238 Huron Street, who told the police he swallowed the ring after the burglary of a jewelry shop at 931 Manhattan Avenue, Brooklyn. Friesel and his companion, George Meyer, 184 Oakland Street, Brooklyn, both 17, were held in $5,000 bail by Magistrate McCloskey in Bridge Plaza Court for examination. Joseph Bonusa shows up again in 1923 under the headline, 5 suspects held in drive on crooks, rum truck stolen. That is, Joseph was arrested for highway robbery, along with 3 other men. Joseph appears again in 1925 for stealing cigarettes and cash from a store after forcing a transom, this time with 3 different men. Frank Friesel's brother, Charles Friesel, appears in 1924, appropriately escaping from jail. Sunday, May 18, 1924, the Brooklyn Daily Eagle nab 2 prisoners who escaped jail in Long Island City. 2 of the 3 young men who escaped from a cell in the Bridge Plaza Court on April 15 were captured late yesterday. One of those recaptured is Charles Friesel, 17, of 7 Davis Street, Long Island City. He was discovered asleep in the hayloft of a stable at 220 India Street when detectives searched the place and tracking down information overheard by Captain George Whites, formerly in charge of the court attendants at Bridge Plaza and now stationed at the Gates Avenue Court, while he was riding in a Graham Avenue car on Friday. When bail had been fixed by Magistrate Short and the 3 young men had been returned to the court cell, they sent the janitor to a nearby restaurant to get them sandwiches and cigarettes. During his absence, they wrenched a piece of metal from the water box of the toilet and pried apart the bars of the cell. Escape was made through a yard in the rear of the court. An investigation followed, which resulted in the transfer of Captain Whites to the Gates Avenue Court. Since then, he has been working day and night in an effort to trace the missing men. Second man captured. Michael Oshewski, 18, of 315 Oakland Street, another of the 3 men who was also arrested last night by detectives from the Gates Avenue station as he was standing on the corner of India and Franklin Streets. The arrest was made by detectives Farrington and McCormack. A coincidence occurred in the arrest of Olszewski in that simultaneous with the arrival of the detectives, Vincent A. O'Connor, attorney for Olszewski, drew up to the corner of India and Franklin Streets in a taxicab. Olszewski was taken to the Ralph Avenue Police Station, and today he will be arraigned in the Bridge Plaza Police Court. Before leaving for the station house, Olszewski conferred for a few moments with his attorney, and then was led away to be locked up. Things seem quiet for Frank for a while. That is, he appears to not be getting busted, but is known as a Yeggman, a man known for breaking safes. And in 1929, Frank and his brother Charles get busted in a gun battle with Greenpoint police, and Frank's girlfriend, Elizabeth Bonusa, enters the papers and history as a badass trying to free her gang. Tuesday, August 13, 1929, the Standard Union. Arrest girl who plotted rescue of bullet victim. Frank Friesel, alleged Yeggman, now prisoner. Police of Greenpoint Station, who on Sunday balked an attempt to rescue Frank Friesel, alleged Yeggman, who was shot by Sergeant Padian in a Greenpoint restaurant Saturday night during a battle with police, from St. Catherine's Hospital, secretly removed the man from that hospital to the safer haven of Kings County Hospital, and early today captured the girl, Elizabeth Bonusa, who police say conceived the daring plan to rescue Friesel. The Bonusa girl, who lives at 181 Greenpoint Avenue, and whose golden hair and beauty marked her indelibly in Sergeant Padian's memory as she sat at the table with 3 men wanted by the police Saturday night, was arrested by Sergeant Padian. She was taken in company with Mrs. Kitty Kuczynski, 27, of 73 North 4th Street, who will be released after a hearing today. Friesel was taken to St. Catherine's Hospital after his arrest, where he was being treated for the bullet wound, which felled him when the attempt to rescue him was made. Taken to prison ward. The prisoner, charged with felonious assault and grand larceny, was secretly moved to the prison ward at the Kings County Hospital, where 2 policemen are guarding him. Late Saturday night, Friesel, with his brother Charles, a blonde-haired young girl, and another man, were in a restaurant at 270 Broadway when Police Sergeant John Padian of Greenpoint Station off-duty walked into the restaurant. He saw Friesel and remembered that there was an alarm out for him in connection with safe robberies in Manhattan, Queens, and this borough. He made his way to the table where Friesel was seated, grabbed him by the arm, and told him he was under arrest. Immediately a fight started. 3 shots were fired at the sergeant. They went through his hat. Aimed a sugar bowl at him. The sergeant says the blonde woman threw a sugar bowl at him, and Frank Friesel tried to hit him with a chair. The shooting was done, the police say, by Charles Friesel. The sergeant got out his revolver, and as Frank Friesel raised the chair again to hit him, fired a shot that felled Friesel. The others made their escape. Friesel was rushed to St. Catherine's Hospital with a bullet wound in his left side. Yesterday, a man giving his name as George Harkins, 28 years old, of 713 Leonard Street, was arrested by Sergeant Padian Tuesday, August 13, 1929, the Times-Union. Mother arrested as aid of criminal. Woman seized officer's arm as he drew gun, is charged. Mrs. Elizabeth Bonusa, 24, was arrested at her home at 181 Greenpoint Avenue early today by Sergeant Padian on a charge of aiding and abetting a felon to escape. She pleaded not guilty and was held in $1,500 bail for hearing Friday, when arraigned later before Magistrate Dale in Bridge Plaza Court. Early Saturday morning, Padian, passing Storn's restaurant at 274 Broadway, recognized in the restaurant John Heisner, 27, of 124 West 121st Street, Manhattan, wanted by the police in connection with burglaries. The cop entered and started to arrest Heisner when 3 of Heisner's friends opened fire. Padian had his hat shot off but captured Heisner, who was shot in the left shoulder, and Detective Abraham Stern as one of the men who was with Friesel and who escaped. He was charged with aiding and abetting in the felonious assault. He was held in $1,500 bail for examination on Friday in the Bridge Plaza Court by Magistrate Harry Howard Dale. Police said the Bonusa woman was with Heisner at the time, and she grabbed Padian's arm when he started to pull his own pistol. She is the mother of 2 small children. Obviously, the papers are getting their names mixed up in these stories, but we know who they're talking about. Tuesday, September 10, 1929, the Times-Union. 2 held for assault. Man, woman accused of aiding prisoner to escape. Charles Friesel, 24, of 4726 49th Street, Astoria, and Elizabeth Bonusa, 22, of 181 Greenpoint Avenue, were held without bail for the action of the grand jury by Magistrate Hirschfield in Bridge Plaza Court today on charges of felonious assault and aiding and abetting a felon to escape. The complainant in the case was Sergeant John Padian of the Greenpoint Station, who charged that when he attempted to arrest Frank Friesel in a restaurant at 275 Broadway on the night of August 10, Friesel and the woman attacked him and aided Frank Friesel to escape. Frank was later captured by police. Frank's brother Charles shows up again in 1930, arrested for theft. And guess who with? Joseph Bonusa, Elizabeth's husband. Tuesday, January 14, 1930, the Brooklyn Daily Eagle. 2 held without bail in stationery theft. Charged with the theft of 225 fountain pens, 16 desk sets, and $135 in cash, Charles Friesel, 24, of 3463 91st Street, Jackson Heights, and Joseph Bonusa, 23, of 169 Kent Street, Brooklyn, were held without bail yesterday when arraigned before Magistrate Doyle in Long Island City Court. Their case is to go to the grand jury. It is alleged that on December 23 last, the 2 young men entered the printing establishment of John Ward of 218 Jackson Avenue, Long Island City, and committed the theft. Charles and Joseph were indicted by the grand jury in February on a charge of burglary in the 3rd degree and grand larceny in the 1st degree. In March, Charles and Joseph were sentenced to the New York Penitentiary after pleading guilty to stealing merchandise from a stationery store. By August, Joseph's mother, Dominica M. Bonusa's obituary shows up in the Standard Union. Joseph shows up again in 1936 when a friend of his tries pressuring a man that Joseph burgled to drop the charges. Thursday, October 15, 1936, the Brooklyn Citizen. Arraigned man who aided 2 nice youths. dissuaded another from signing complaint against alleged burglars. Having successfully played the role of the Good Samaritan to two nice youths charged with attempting to burglarize a house, George T. Pratt, 40, of number 580 Morgan Avenue, will be arraigned today in Bridge Plaza Court. Magistrate Matthew J. Troy in Felony Court ordered Pratt's arrest yesterday after he admitted dissuading Friesel Sensaya of number 103 Java Street from signing a complaint against three young men accused of breaking into a house owned by the latter at number 196 Huron Street. Pratt's explanation was that he knew that the alleged burglars were nice boys. "It seems to me," said Magistrate Troy, "that you Good Samaritans are responsible for many witnesses conveniently losing their memories when they get on the witness stand." After Sensaya refused to sign the complaint, the three youths were arraigned on a short affidavit signed by Detective Thomas J. Kearney. They are Edward Lewoyka, 23, of number 86 Newell Street, and Stephen Warjawiak, 21, of number 83 Newell Street, who were held in $2,500 bail each for the grand jury, and Joseph Bonusa, 32, of number 169 Kench Street, who was held without bail. After a decade in prison, Florida and New York ended up fighting over who gets to punish Frank for which gunfight with police. Sunday, December 17, 1939, the Daily News. Cop's assault 10 years ago holds convict. More than 10 years after he broke away from an arresting officer and fired a shot through the policeman's hat in a Brooklyn restaurant, Frank Friesel, 38, ex-convict, is occupying a cell here and awaiting trial on a charge of assault. The 10-year interval availed Friesel little, as he spent 9 of those years in prison, 5 in Pennsylvania for robbery, and 4 in Florida for having escaped previously from a road gang. The defendant, brought here from Pittsburgh following his release from prison there, was held without bail Friday by County Judge Peter J. Brancato for trial on an indictment charging him with assaulting John J. Padian, then a police sergeant but now an acting captain, in a restaurant at 275 Broadway, Brooklyn on August 10, 1929. Wounds Friesel. Padian had recognized Friesel as a suspect wanted in connection with safe robberies in Queens, Nassau, Westchester, and Manhattan, but when he placed the man under arrest, Friesel's brother Charles and another companion, Joseph Bonusa, attacked him. Padian was forced to release his grip on Friesel, and the latter drew a revolver, fired 2 shots, and fled. Padian also fired, wounding Charles Friesel. The latter and Bonusa pleaded guilty to assault and were sent to prison. Charles Friesel, police said, was killed later in a Western holdup. Friday, August 29, 1941, the Brooklyn Daily Eagle. Borough wants Friesel, but Florida keeps him. Old-time safecracker broke parole here, but they claim he shot deputy in South. Frank Friesel, old-time safecracker, arrested yesterday in Tampa, Florida, for violation of a Brooklyn parole, is not likely to be returned to this borough for some time, it was learned in the Kings County Court. Communications from the Florida authorities, it was said, are to the effect that he is wanted in that state for the prior crime of shooting a deputy sheriff in 1928 and making his escape from a chain gang to which he had been sentenced the year before to a 5-year term for cracking a safe. Coming to New York after his Florida escape, Friesel was involved with his brother, John, in a shooting affray with the police in a Manhattan restaurant on December 13, 1929. John was wounded, but Frank escaped after sending a bullet through the hat of Sergeant John Padian, since promoted to lieutenant. Talked himself free. 10 years and a day later, on December 14, 1939, Brooklyn detectives met him at the gates of the Western State Penitentiary in Pittsburgh when he was released from that institution after serving a 5-year term for a $3,800 robbery. Brought back to this borough on a charge of assault for the Padian shooting, Friesel talked himself out of punishment. On November 26 last, County Judge George W. Martin, believing Friesel's story that he had been promised a job by the warden of the Florida State Prison gave Friesel a suspended sentence on condition that he proceed at once to his job. Had not gone to work. Communications with the Florida authorities subsequently revealed that Friesel was not working for the prison warden, who had merely recommended to him several places where he might have gotten work as a machinist. Moreover, Friesel neglected to report his whereabouts and doing to the Brooklyn probation authorities. His record includes at least 5 previous convictions for grand larceny and robbery. In 1962, Elizabeth Bonusa's obituary appears, and she was married to a man named Joseph, because even Bonnie and Clyde come to an end. Elizabeth is survived by 2 children, 5 siblings, and 5 grandchildren.